juice is temporary. You know, anyone can obtain the juice or something. I mean, you could say that just because you got a nice car, so I'm like, oh man, you got the juice. You know, it's something that kind of comes and goes. The sauce. The sauce is forever. That's the sauce, man. It sticks around. It's thick. It's hard to move. I'm telling you.
Okay, so hear me out. There are a ton of great 35mm lenses out there made by other manufacturers from the 90s to the 2020s, and they'll give you great images that'll look schmackin'. But most of them are the juice. They'll be great for a little bit for the time being, and then in a couple years time, you'll want to upgrade to the next latest and greatest for less chromatic aberration or faster autofocus. But there is something to be said about a lens that has been manufactured for almost 20 years and is still relevant and probably the best lens ever made. And the Leica 35mm Summicron King of Bokeh is definitely the sauce. Let's quickly talk about the form factor. This lens is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Look how small and cute this thing is. Like, for comparison, this is my Canon 35mm lens f1.4 and this is the Leica. Look how, wow. This thing is tiny, it's German made. This particular model was actually made in 1997, so that's a championship year for Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, which I personally like. It's got a super tiny, cute little square lens hood that is made of plastic, but it's still sturdy. It doesn't rattle because, of course, Leica makes their products very well. The aperture click is nice and solid here. You should listen to this. And lastly, there are versions of this lens that were made in Canada and there's included branding to indicate it as such. There is no difference between the Canada version and the Germany version. The build quality is the same, the glass is the same, the optical performance is exactly identical. All right, enough about that. We need to get to the sauce of the video, why it's called the King of Bokeh. But before we do that, make sure you smash the like button down below and make sure you subscribe because ain't nobody doing Leica reviews like me out on the YouTube platform. I'm trying to keep it real, entertaining, and kind of casual for you guys too. You know the vibes. Alright, so this is probably going to be the segment that most people skip to because having a lens called the King of Bokeh is a pretty high title. So I'm going to do my best to educate you guys on this lens. This lens has an aperture of f2, which is not that great in terms of, I guess, shallow depth of field. For this particular lens, it comes down to the character of the bokeh. Modern day lenses are probably manufactured to be perfect. They are supposed to be clinical, they're supposed to be sharp from the middle all the way to the corners because that is what serves the market today. And I've taken plenty of gorgeous shots on my Canon 35mm lens, which can open up wider than this Leica lens. It's giving me more shallower depth of field. The whole, I guess, rendition is non-debatable. I don't really have any complaints about it. But for this Leica lens, the rendition is actually quite nice at f2, which is the widest it can open up to. Sure, it can't give you the most blurriest background, but when you do shoot it at the right distance with enough foreground-background separation, the bokeh kind of looks fish scaly. It looks a little bit painterly too, as the fall off goes from the center all the way out to the edges. Most people nowadays, especially in the professional field, I guess, wouldn't really want that because it can be distracting. And that's all like subjective preference, yada yada yada. But for me personally, and for a lot of people out there who own this lens, that painterly look and that very unique bokeh is so artistic in itself that it really separates the images made off of this lens to every modern day lens now. And this lens, with all intents and purposes, not the sharpest tool in the shed. At f2, the center is okay in terms of sharpness. Of course, the corners are not the sharpest. It's a little bit blurry. That's why it kind of has its character ingrained in it. But for this type of photography, I don't really need it to be tack sharp to the point where I see your pores wide open. The idea of having character in a lens is sort of up to the artist or the photographer, right? There are different tools for different purposes or tasks, and if you want a sharper Leica 35 Summicron, you can. There are actually 6 versions of this lens. The one that I have now is the version 4. If you get 5 or 6, you get that more clinical sharpness, the more consistent one that you could use for either casual work or professional work. For this one, it's up to you if you want to use it for professional work or commercial stuff, but the artistic sense of it, the character, the rendition of it is so unique, which is why it earned its moniker of King of Bokeh. You might argue that it might be too distracting in some scenarios, but for me, I think it gives it enough unique stylistic rendition that to me kind of gives it a more timeless look. Yes, this lens is the King of Bokeh. It's a vintage treasure of Leica, but like all things, there's a huge con to it. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the second-hand market of Leica cameras or Leica lenses, things that are still in production, they depreciate in value. You could buy the latest Summicron lens right now. It could be like $4,000, $5,000. I don't really know the price tag of it, but it'll depreciate over time. This lens has been discontinued since 1997, and the value is only appreciating. A lens that was made literally last year that is supposed to be technically better is going to be like $2,300 on the second-hand market. This lens is so expensive. It is over $3,000. So yeah, this tiny little bugger is going to cost you an arm and a leg. I had to sell one of my cameras to get one of these things, but for me, it was worth every single penny because I am a huge fan of this focal length. I'm a huge 35mm guy. Favorite focal length, I use it for everything, and I want to max out the quality of that focal length for my favorite camera. So to me, it was worth it. For you, it might not be. It's so subjective, and that's going to be the all-time timeless argument for owning Leica and for not owning it. So you can light it up in the comment section all you want. I would love to hear your thoughts about that. Alright y'all, it's 1 a.m. in the morning and I'm trying to get this video out in 6 hours. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I appreciate all of you guys for always watching these videos, and I'm gonna try to review this Leica stuff in my own way and to try to stand out in the review portion sector of YouTube. So yeah, if you want to keep following along and you want to promote this video, make sure you smash that like button and share it. I already said that. It's so late. I'm very tired and I'm recording this on my iPhone because I don't want to set up the light in my other camera. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.